Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Busa Writing God King podcast. Today is episode 5, I believe. First of all, today we are joined by our guest, Prakash. Say hi, Prakash.
Hello, guys.
And like usual, I'm Adam Mataway.
And I'm Chris, still chilling on the podcast, aka Dante. And Prakash, who is the guest, is a friend of mine that I met in Japan.
And we are going to be talking about the next step in the path of the Busa Writing God Kings, which is setting your goals as high as you can. You want to be able to test your limits and push them as far as possible. You don't want to settle for anything, and you want to always try and get the best of your goal. Let's start off by putting Prakash in the spotlight here. Prakash, do you have
Oh, yes.
any major goals that you can think of right now, off the top of your head?
Right now, off the top of my head, I have 3 goals, like short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. My short-term
Awesome.
goal is to get fluent in Japanese, speak at like a native level, get a job in Japan, and pass the N2 exam. N2 exam is an exam that you get it sort of like rates your fluency in Japanese. So if you have that certificate, you can like work in Japan. So you can like read all the letters. Like right now, the thing that's stopping me from, my Japanese fluency is my ability to read. I still can't read it because there are like 5,000 characters you have to know before you can read. Like, like I've been in Japan for 4 years and I can't read the newspaper in Japanese. so, so it's been embarrassing, but so that's my goal for the next 3 months is to learn 3 to 5,000 characters to be able to fully converse in Japanese. And my medium term goal is to get be at a position where I can start my own business, hopefully a business in finance, which links Japan and India. Because India is gonna grow like China grew for the past 20 years. China grew at like average of 10 to 12% for the past 20 from
What did it grow in?
1990 onwards. 10 to 12%
In
economic growth.
population growth, economic growth, okay.
Economic growth, yeah. So my theory is that billionaires, they get created in waves. So you have the tech boom, Larry Ellison, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all those guys made huge amounts of money. 1970s, 1980s, those guys, and then
Yeah, well, we also have the modern tech wave.
yeah,
You know,
the
we've got
modern,
Elon
and then
Musk.
you have the dot-com billionaires, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel,
Jeff
Peter
Bezos.
Thiel, Jeff Bezos, yes, Jeff Bezos, Mark Cuban, and then you have the social media billionaires, Mark Zuckerberg, what's the Snapchat, Evan Spiegel, yeah, who else?
Is there anyone
And
from Twitter?
Jack Dorsey, Google, Jack Dorsey from Twitter, all those people. So from China, you see China. So usually the U.S. has the highest number of billionaires. It was the first time China overtook them. And China's
Wait, the highest number of individual billionaires.
individual billionaire. No, it's like you have to take into account. Like first, it was highest number of individual billionaires. China has more billionaires now than the United States.
Well, I'm not entirely surprised considering the population comparison. Yeah, that's also interesting considering that the majority of innovation is happening in America. But maybe that's showing a change in innovation trend as well.
No, it's not about innovation. It's like, look at this. China didn't have completely. It didn't have capitalism. Still doesn't have capitalism. It has a form of state capitalism, cronyism. Like a little. It's just starting to become a free market. So for that, and for there to be such an explosion of wealth, like 600 million people were lifted out of poverty in the past 45 years in China.
Those are your short term is to learn Japanese, and your long term is
Yeah.
to gain the
The long term
certificate
is to
and
sort of
work in
no, no, no.
Japan.
That's my short term goal.
That's
Yeah.
still all the short term. Awesome.
Yeah. So my medium term goal is to start a business in Japan with finance, like like related to finance. So getting finance from. So the reason I was talking about China is like the way China grew, India is going to grow next. The next growth boom, like the sort of the next driver of international economic growth, is going to be in India. So like investment in India is going to like grow multiple fold. So if I can get international investment, like especially investment from Japan into India, I'd be able to like if I can sort of provide a gateway and act as a middleman without like I wouldn't be using the capital for myself. Instead, I'd be acting as a channel for the capital and being a sort of middleman. I'll be able to sort of like ride the current up to making a lot of money. So my long-term goal is financial independence, freedom, like total freedom
Nice.
from the rat race.
You mentioned that India is you were predicting that India is going to be the next big economic explosion. But from what I've heard,
Yes.
India is the majority of India's geography is like like third world country esque. But their cities are of course their cities are booming. So do you think that the cities are
Yeah.
truly going to become powerful enough to carry the rest of the country?
So everybody's talking about the news. Everybody's talking about like how China's economic slowdown. Oh, China is starting to slow down. China's still growing at 6.7%.
No, I mean
So
I've never
what's
even heard
no, no,
that
no,
news.
let me like I'm drawing parallels
Yeah,
because like what happened there is going to so the the reason cities grow is because the rural population moves from farming or agrarian jobs to industrial jobs in factories around cities. So that's how cities grow. So the growth of cities means that what do you call rural population is declining. So the dependence on uh, the agrarian economy, the dependence on like agriculture, like India, agriculture is only like 10% of the GDP, but employs like 60% of the population. So 60% of the population is being wasted on like menial labor, and that's
yeah.
why so many people are poor. That was the same case in China. It's just built like hundreds of millions of people working on pennies on the dollar in rice farms, starving to death. And that's what's changed in China, and that's what's changing in India right now.
That sounds a lot
So
like America before the First World War, or during it at least.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Okay,
So
I perfectly see the parallels you're drawing. But you did mention
yeah,
that people are saying that China's economy is going to slow down. But first of all, I've never seen news like that. And second of all, I find that hard to believe.
so I'll give you three indicators. One, they're moving up the value chain. So moving up the value chain is first they used to like before like 10 years ago, smartphones. The chips came from Taiwan, Korea, Japan. They were assembled in China and shipped off to America, which is the biggest market for smartphones. The biggest market for smartphones now is China. Second biggest market is India. Third biggest market is the United States. This just 10 years ago, that's the change. So China and secondly, and so they're moving up the value chain because the wealth before 10 years ago, people were ready to work for like say, 500, $300 a month. Now people want 500, $600 a month. So people in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, they're still poor. So all these companies, they're moving their assembling, the manufacturing plants to the Southeast Asian countries. So China is losing out to these smaller countries in the neighborhood. So their only way to maintain their edge is to move up the value chain. So you might have heard about the Pearl River Delta. Shenzhen, Guangzhou, that's where all the chips are made. Like you could basically go to a market in Shenzhen, and these tiny shops. They all sell different chips. You could assemble your own smartphone. You just go buy different chips, and you could put together an entire motherboard, everything, for like under $200. It is pretty cool place, and that's now the tech capital of China. It's called the China Silicon Valley.
I see.
That's that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to go from like blue collar to how do I say it?
Well, let me see if I get this straight then. You're saying that now that the influence of technology is spreading to all of these powerful countries, the population numbers are starting to take control and manipulate, or not even manipulate, but now balance the, like you said earlier, India and China now have more smartphones than America, or have a bigger smartphone market because, now that the populace has easy access to smartphones, the greater numbers of population is changing that. And so now you're seeing all this happening throughout the world, and you're planning to go to Japan so that you can take advantage of it and follow the wave.
Yeah, yeah. I saw this in 2000, like right when I was graduating from college. All my friends were going, like most of my friends were just studying in state. Like I didn't go to a particularly, I wasn't well off, so I had to go. Like I needed a scholarship to be able. Like my parents couldn't afford to send me abroad, so I had to find a scholarship to get to here, like, get to any. Like I needed to get to a first world country because I needed the finance, and I can't get it in India. And also, like I had to like it's too, it's too different because like India, the friends you probably meet, the Indians you probably meet, they're probably super hardworking, super educated.
Oh yeah,
There's so much competition. There are
right.
limited resources in India, so I figured like if I go into the rat race, I'm not going to be able to win because like if you want to go into a good college, you need to have like perfect grades. And Japan is like I had other they had like debates and quizzes, and they had like a lot of extracurricular activity that doesn't matter to people. The colleges in India, they don't give a fuck about extracurriculars unless you have like perfect grades. And extracurriculars are seen as like a sort of distinguishing thing. I had horrible grades, but I had like a lot of extracurricular activity. So I applied abroad, and I needed to get a scholarship, and I got a scholarship in this university. I got like a free ride. So that's all I got out of India. So like I wanted to come to Japan because Japan is investing and will continue to invest a lot of money in India. And they're like the companies that are investing in India, they're gonna need someone who's able to navigate the because India is a fucking jungle.
Oh, so
Like a foreign
you'll be a
company, yeah,
powerful asset in Japan because you'll essentially be you'll always have the role of a navigator for
yeah,
Indian
sort
trade.
of like yeah, what's it
Okay.
called, liaison type, broker,
Well,
middleman,
so
power
let's
broker type.
because we're getting a little off topic. We are talking about economy now.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
ask Chris, do
yeah.
you have any goals right now? Which I know you do.
Yes, I do. I have quite a few goals. Physically, right? Right now I'm bulking, and I'm gonna cut near the end of my house arrest period. So physically, I have the goal of going from a natural weight of about 155 up to about 170 to 175. I want to be within that range at the end of house arrest. That's just for my own pure strength gains. Then I want to become world champion boxing, and I also want to become world champion MMA. So I know those are two insanely high goals, but I don't know. It keeps me motivated. The other day, yesterday I had no, yeah, yesterday I had my friend over, and we did some boxing drills, and he's the USA national champ for I can't remember his weight class, featherweight or something. He's like two weight classes below me. Um, so I don't know. I'm really serious about it. I really want to work as hard as I can to make it to those, and that's my physical section, right? Then um, I want to become more of an influence in the world, like globally, through my writing. But the smaller version of that goal is I just want to help people out. So if my writing can affect some people's lives, if this podcast can help some people that are feeling kind of down or feeling kind of lost, and it can give them a direction, sweet, I'm chilling, right? In the long run, the long term of that is I'd like to have some level of influence over the workings of the world. So, you know, people in position of power come to me asking me hey, what do you think about X? What do you think about Y? How do you think I should handle situation Z? Right? That'd be awesome. Like if we could end up being a group where world leaders like come to us to ask our analysis on a certain situation because we're objective, and as most of the people that listen to this podcast can tell from the past podcasts, we kind of analyze things in a different way. I think that'd be awesome. That's like very long term though. And then I also have a long term goal of being a professional poker player, but that's more of a medium term goal because as soon as I'm off house arrest, like I'm going in. No, nothing's gonna fucking stop me. And then another long term goal is I want to become a top Twitch streamer, which I think will happen naturally because of my other goals and because of the fact that I'll be streaming my Busa lifestyle once I'm in my own apartment.
What weight category are you gonna fight in?
I'm kind of torn because I'll probably be 170, so I can fight at 168, which I can't remember the name right now. I think that's
Middleweight?
like I
Is
think it's
junior
above
middleweight?
middleweight, right? And I think it's the one right above middleweight. I think middleweight is
Welterweight?
162. I'm not exactly sure. But it's gonna depend completely on once I start doing my amateur fights. Once I'm off house arrest and I start doing amateur fights, it's gonna depend completely on what weight I keep my body at and where I'm naturally the strongest. So I'm gonna try it first to stay around 170, 175.
I think you should stay at like 150 and like be super lean, like, lean
Yeah.
fighting
No.
machine type
I
thing.
get you because I did that when I had my first amateur fight. I fought at 152. But it was too low. Like I wasn't able to contain, like I wasn't able to have my stamina because I had to lose a lot of water weight right before the fight, and the weigh-in and the fight was
Okay.
on the same day. So like when I had the fight, like by the third round, I was like my legs were locking up and stuff because I literally drained like 10 pounds of water weight the night before because I had to. I had no other option. I wasn't going to make the weigh-in otherwise, so I had to lose the water weight. So 152 is too low. So I want to be at least the one above that. But that's why it's going to depend completely on when I do the amateur fights. If my size and my weight is compromising my speed too much, I'll drop to like a lean 160 and then fight at 158, right? But if not, I'm going to try to fight at the upper weight and just try to be fast anyway, right? Do a lot of yoga, do a lot of boxing, and get my speed and flexibility up there so I'm nice and loose. All right, so
how about you, Adam? What are your goals?
Well, I'm gonna use the format you gave, Prakash, and my short-term goal, which is also has a time not constraint, but a time set to it, which is graduating college. I want to get out of college and get a degree, and then essentially move on with my life. My medium-term goal is to like become as physically fit as I can be.
Okay.
And my long-term goal,
I got you on this one. I got you. His long-term goal is financial independence, just like you. But that's also, I totally forgot to mention, that's also my long-term goal.
Yeah, that's my long-term goal. Ends with financial independence, but the means of it are still undecided. I think the means are ideally creating something, a product.
I don't want financial independence. I want financial abundance. That's it.
Yeah, fair. Those are two separate things. I get you.
Because like I don't want to live. Like I want to live. Like I want to live for the rest of my
you
life.
want to be free.
Like,
you want to be
live.
free as fuck. Anytime you want to do something, you just do it.
Free is having a bike or just like riding around and like not having to worry about it. Like when I mean abundance, I mean just like if I like nothing.
No, nothing can stop you. Yeah, nothing can stop you. There's nothing you can't afford. If you want to take a week and fly to some other country, you can do it. I get you.
Yeah, and like you said, like be a person of influence. Like have a effect on the happenings of the world. Like be a person of influence.
All right, so I think we all understand. Like we all have pretty high goals. And I think we all understand why. But for the people listening, why, let's say Prakash, why do you think it's important to set such a high goal? Like, why do you think for me, instead of aiming for like let's say my long-term goal is I just want to have one amateur boxing fight, right? Why is it better for me to set the goal I want to be world champion than just I want to fight amateur boxing once, right?
It's because if you aim for the moon, even if you miss, you will end up at the stars. Like
Beautifully
Mike
said.
Tyson said.
That was
Yeah.
perfect.
And so when like every time I've set a goal and I've missed, like I've hit, like I've failed because I hit a mediocre goal, and I've succeeded because I've missed a superb, like over, like a long shot a goal. Like, am I articulating it correctly? I think I'm not.
Yeah, let me see if I got you. So when you set your goal for, let's say I'm gonna sell 100 copies of my book, right?
Mm,
And then you miss and you sell 60, right?
mm,
You're missing your superb goal of, let's say, 100 or 1,000 or whatever, but you're
mm,
selling 60 copies,
mm,
which is
yeah.
much better than having set your goal to, I'm gonna sell 10 copies,
Mm.
right?
Like right now, look at this. You guys are all in your rooms, right? Indoor, right?
Yes.
Okay, raise your hands as high as you can.
All right, I'm on it.
Raise it a little higher, as
Okay.
high as you can.
Yes.
A little higher.
Gotcha.
Bitch, you're gonna make me stand.
Okay. Why did you guys, like, when I said as high as you can, you raised it, and then I said a little higher, you raised it again? Why do you guys do what? Why didn't you do it the first time I said so? The first time I said as high as you can, why didn't you guys go all in?
Damn.
A lot of times we just half-ass things, and we just sleepwalk through life. And we, like, I look back at my life, and at least I woke up. We're young, like we're still fucking young. All three of us are still young, and we realized pretty early on that a lot of people are sleepwalking through life, just not they don't even think about the potential or like anything. Like they're so self-involved, so superficial, so stuck in momentary uh,
Pleasures, yeah.
bullshit. Yeah, bullshit. Just like oh this, and they don't even look ahead. And by the time they lift their heads up to look around at the rest of the world, they're too old.
They're like
And then they're gonna
70 or
look
60
back.
and retired, and they're
Yeah,
like, fuck, I didn't do anything with my
yeah,
life. Like,
yeah.
midlife
And
crises happen because of that. Makes sense.
and you're gonna look back at your life and you're gonna regret the things you didn't do, not the things you did. And you're gonna look back and like you like this is one of the older rules, but yeah, and like I only started doing it after you told me to. Is like do stuff that you would normally not do in the Busa, the pamphlet that you gave me, the brochure, the paper, the sorry,
Yeah. The
ebook
path.
thing.
Got you.
Yeah. So like doing stuff, like being, like going that extra mile, setting goals that seem ridiculous, but and, like my affirmations, like I say to myself, dude, you should do it, Chris, you should do it, Adam, you should do it. You condense your goals into a paper, and yeah, I put it right by my desk. Dude, this affirmation stuff and this I know it sounds like self improvement bullshit that you read in every book and all that stuff, but it works because you constantly, like, you sort of engrave it in your head, and you act it out because you now have direction, and you now have a cause, and you now have an objective to march towards. So now you're
Exactly.
not aimlessly sleepwalking through life. You are marching. You are a motivated soldier marching towards an objective,
You're
and you
not a
have
soldier.
direction
You're a
now.
warrior.
Exactly,
Yes,
boys.
And
exactly.
holy shit, Prakash,
Oh,
like you, that's a round of applause right there. And you've like deeply impressed me as a person.
oh, thank you, Adam.
Like even if it's just your ability to communicate, it's very good.
Oh, thank you, Adam.
Yeah, dude. I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason I took the time to talk to you, Prakash, and invest
Yeah,
time into giving you my advice and all this kind of shit. Was because I saw
yeah.
like, holy shit, this dude could be woke, right? And here you are. and that's why I had you as a guest. I figured
And
it would come out more.
uh,
I want to hop back real quick to
Yeah.
the affirmation thing,
Yeah.
because I don't know if you listened to episode, I believe it was 2 on the podcast. No, actually, I don't think that podcast is out yet. But one of the podcasts we talked about living by your word. Maybe that was the first one. Anyway, the point is
that was the second one. I remember.
okay.
That was
So
second one.
in the affirmation thing, the living by your word kind of stems off that, in the sense that right now in the Busa way, right now, for the record, this is purely hypothetical because I have already done leg day. But if I told you right now, like, oh, Prakash, right as soon as we finish this podcast, I'm gonna do leg day, right, and I'm gonna hit my squat max, right? Because I've said it out loud, I'm fucked. Like, I have to do it. You get me? So that's kind of the thing. Like with the affirmation, is you're constantly keeping shit in your present frame of mind all the time, right? Like, you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna be a fucking world champion boxer, right? And so then you box.
You say,
right?
I
And if
am.
you keep saying
You
it,
say,
I am. Yeah, there you go.
present.
I am.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's what you become. That's why, like, a lot of us, I always remind myself, I'm Busa, right? And there are times where Stephanie, you haven't met her, but she was on the podcast like 3 weeks ago, I think. She always does this. Like, she's getting worried about something, or one of her friends is making her feel anxious, and she's like, fuck this shit, I'm Busa. And she just throws that to the side and then starts fucking doing whatever the fuck she has to do, right?
Before we go on to the next topic, 2 things I'd like to add. Keeping your own word thing, it's for your own self-esteem to yourself. But keeping your word to yourself, you are the most important person to your life. Like, you're living, like, you have known you for your entire life. And when you say
The first podcast was Live by Your Word, and I'm pretty sure we went over this.
Yeah, we talked about self-reliance, that it's important that you live by your word because you need to be able to trust yourself, and then that builds the confidence in yourself that when you say, I'm gonna do X, you do it.
I couldn't do that. Like I couldn't do that. Like I like a lot of times I made promises to myself. I couldn't keep that. And every time I say that I'm gonna do something, I start, like, immediately there's a voice in my head that goes, no, you're not. You're gonna, like, I tried to quit smoking 7 times and I fucking failed. And every time
now he's done it.
I'm gonna do it. And now it's
quit.
been, now I've done it.
Wow, dude. Same here with me, man. It took me a while.
Oh, God, man. How long has it been for you, Adam?
Since when? Since I stopped smoking?
Yeah.
5
3 or 4 months. I think it's 4 months, 4.5 months.
Nice, man. God. And like I used to smoke the super strong 12 mg cigarettes.
I mean, I used to vape a Juul, dude.
Oh shit, man! Fuck.
Yeah,
that stuff was rough. All right, so let's.
Yeah. Let's go. As the honest and kind to yourself, honest and kind to everyone else, as well as yourself, and like, we critique ourselves all the time. For like the entire day, every time we do something, we fucking critique ourselves, and it's like having the horrible person standing next to you and just poking you with a stick every. And
you gotta turn that into the better version of yourself, who's telling you instead of saying you can't do it, instead of saying now you need to say, I need to do this, I will do this.
Yes.
I'm going to do this right now. I'm doing it right now. And
like complimenting yourself internally. So for like every horrible thing, of course you need a little bit of self-critique. So that's how you improve. But we have too much, and we constantly bully ourselves, and we belittle ourselves within our own heads. It happens. We do it to ourselves. You look at the mirror. Oh, look at your face, you fuck. You sort of do that. You're in a bad mood. You feel horrible.
Every time Chris goes to the mirror, he looks at himself and goes, "You fucking asshole! You piece of garbage! You trash!" No, I'm kidding. I bet Chris goes to the mirror and he's like, "You handsome devil!"
He jerks off to himself, Chris.
He does jerk off to himself.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. All right. It's happened once, all right?
Fuck, man. You fuck, man.
All right.
I had a video.
Let's introduce part 8. Let's go.
No, I wanted to say one thing about this mentality thing right here. All right, what Prakash was saying right now about, bullying ourselves, you need to silence that voice. So when you do something wrong, right, you need to realize you did something wrong, step 1, right? But step two shouldn't be I'm a piece of shit person, I'm an asshole. It should be okay, next time I won't do this, right? And this time maybe I got lucky. For example, I'll give Adam as an example. A while back, he got drunk and he did a handstand for the first time. And it's not like it was necessarily the worst thing in the world.
That
And
wasn't a while back. That was like a week ago.
he dodged the consequence. Yeah, it was a week ago. He dodged the consequence of it, right? But I pointed out to him, like, what if you were drunk and you went to do the handstand, right? And you broke your wrist, right? Now you can't work out for several months while your wrist is healing. You know, it's gonna bring you off the path. Like it's whatever, right? And so I wasn't necessarily saying like, oh, you're a piece of shit for doing that or whatever. I was just bringing it to his attention. So your inner voice should bring things to your attention objectively and peacefully, and saying like, hey, you're human. You know, you messed up this time. Just do better next time, buddy. Right? That should be your inner voice. However, you also need to have a mental terrorist inside your head. All right. Anytime you say can't, your mental terrorist jumps on you with a fucking RPG and is like, fuck that shit. Get that shit out of my head, right? And that's very important, all right? But we'll get to that on another podcast. Let's move on to the next subject, all right? So the next topic of discussion is that as a Busa, you need to be wholesome, helpful, kind, and understanding. Most important, you need to have patience. People are very rash and quick to anger. They don't listen to understand, they listen to respond. I'm not saying that everybody is rash. When I say people are rash, by the way, that's just a general statement, and it's true. Like, people are rash. I'm not saying every single human being is rash. I'm just saying people are rash. People as a body are rash. It's just natural human nature. So
Yeah,
okay,
you're right.
so
It's that prey instinct inside of us.
yeah, exactly. So okay, you need to uh, essentially be the bigger man or bigger woman in the situation, the better human, let's put it that way, in the situation. And I don't mean better as in like, oh, I'm better than this person. But what I mean is when you're in a situation and someone's like yelling at you, right? If you get really angry and start yelling back at them, you're just going to make the situation worse. And both of you are going to get hurt worse. So it's much better if you just relax, you breathe, and you're understanding. So you listen to what they're yelling at you about, and you say, okay, I'm sorry. I understand that that hurt you, or I understand that I messed up. I didn't mean to do it that way. Like, that wasn't my intention. I'm sorry, right? And even if maybe you don't mean it 100%, right? You should definitely mean it. You should definitely mean the part of like, oh, I made a mistake, right? Because in their eyes, at least, you made a mistake. Maybe not in yours, but in their eyes, you did something that got them so agitated that they're yelling at you full volume. So obviously, that didn't just fall out of the sky. You know, every once in a while, it happens. They have a stressful day. You do something super insignificant, and out of the sky comes this rain of terror where someone's just yelling at you. But most of the time, you did a little bit of something. So own up to the little bit that you did. Say that you're sorry, and then treat them with kindness instead of adding in negativity to the mix.
Nah, man. It's like it's something like I think it should depend on the person. Say if it's my mom doing it. Like I know my mom. My mom's a loving person, kind person. And if she's up like she's it's probably true. Same with my dad. Like but if some guy from like it again, like this was something about the kind and be honest and kind to yourself. Like what I did, I was bullied a lot when I was in junior high, and like I really internalized that, and and my entire life, my parents said, don't get into trouble. If something happens, just tell the authorities, and just just don't get into trouble. And if your friends make fun of you, just laugh along with them, and everything will be fine. And I got picked on all the time. I was so embarrassed. I didn't go to school for like weeks. I'd pretend I was sick, and I'd never leave my room. And that's when I started hitting the gym when I was grade 12. But that's how I started, working out and trying to get big so I don't get bullied. And last 2 weeks ago at the gym, I told Chris about this. This guy, like, he's smaller than me. Like, if it did have, if there was a physical altercation, I could have taken him. But this guy was very, very rude to me at the gym, and I think I somehow gave, like, I said, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I did that. He didn't just come out of the box and go straight to me and be rude to me. He saw something in me. Like I think I just like I think I gave out the vibe that you know how prisoners say.
Yeah, like we gave
Like,
out a little bit of mental weakness. Like he saw a
yeah,
little bit of like, oh,
and
this guy, I can push him over.
yeah, you can push him, and this guy thought he could pick on me, and I immediately and I didn't I did rebuff him, but I didn't go up to him and yo, you think you're gonna have a fucking problem? Like I didn't stand up face to face and just not yell at him, but tell him draw the fucking line and show him this is not an easy target. And and I came back and I texted Chris and I was like, dude, I fucking hate myself, man. I can't believe I did that. I just this is junior high school all over, and I was so agitated because I didn't stand up for myself. And so that's what I just want to say that, and because if we're too that, I do that a lot. I apologize every second. I apologize for existing. So I I think I have to. I think it depends on the person. Maybe some people need to apologize more, and some people need to apologize less. And I don't know. Again, it's a subjective thing.
So a girl that I know, right, went to go pick up weed for her friends, and her mother told her the night before, I know you're going to this wedding soon. I know you're gonna go pick up weed for your friends or whatever. Like, just make sure my car doesn't smell like weed, or like actually, I'm pretty sure she said don't use my car to pick up weed, something like that. Whatever. Point is, obviously, this girl that I know is a little bit of a delinquent. She's nice, but she's a little bit delinquent. So she decides, whatever, it's not a big deal, right? So she goes and she picks up weed for her friends. Now she drives back to her house with the windows rolled down and stuff, and then takes the weed out of the car. And then the next morning wakes up before her mother to go check the car and smells the car and is like, oh, the car doesn't smell like weed. However, this girl smokes weed, and obviously her nostrils were overwhelmed by like the pound and a half that she picked up. So she didn't actually smell that the car still smelled like weed. So um, the next morning, in the morning, she literally opens her eyes to her mom standing over her bed, yelling at her, how the fuck could you do this? Blah, 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 right? And then they get into this huge argument, right? And the mom was arguing that, oh, like, what if I was driving to the grocery store and like a cop pulled me over and they smell the weed? Like, I would be fucked and all this kind of shit. And like, what if you last night were driving home and you got pulled over with like a pound and a half of weed? Like, you would have been fucked, all this kind of stuff, right? And so she was trying to argue back, oh, but mom, but it didn't happen. I didn't get pulled over by a cop. I'm fine. Like, I'm home. There's nothing wrong, et cetera, right? And like, no, but I even checked the car if it smelled like weed. She was trying to defend herself, right? And it wasn't working. And during this argument, she starts messaging me. And I told her, okay, stop. Like, stop responding. Don't respond to anything. Let your mom rant a little bit, and I'll help you out. So her mom ranted, and then I messaged this girl, and I told her, okay, you're going to say the following. I'm sorry, mom. Because here's the thing. The mom called her irresponsible. And this girl is a super, super responsible person. So she got really agitated because her mom started bringing up stuff about her past, like, oh, you used to do cocaine and you're a piece of shit and all this stuff. And like, she hasn't done cocaine in years. So she was like super upset because she's been super responsible, right? It's like Prakash. Imagine you don't smoke cigarettes for 2 years, and then you're in an argument with a friend of yours, and he's like, yeah, but you're a filthy cigarette smoker, right? That's going to piss you off. So she was pissed off that her mom was saying she was irresponsible. So I told her, okay, this is what you're going to respond. I'm sorry, mom. I was irresponsible in the moment. You're right. I shouldn't have driven in the car with weed. I shouldn't have used your car to pick up the weed. It won't happen again. That's it. And it diffused her mom because her mom does not want a logical retaliation of, oh, why it's not that big of a deal because nothing happened, right? What her mom wants is validation that she's right in her anger and an apology of, oh, I'm sorry, I was irresponsible, right? Like, that was a mistake, my bad, right? Acknowledgement that the person did something wrong, that this girl had done something wrong, and that's it. And it diffused the argument, right? Whereas internally, this girl was fuming that her mom was calling her irresponsible and that she was saying all this shit and making such a big deal out of something that nothing happened. This extends to what I just said, like, I don't know, a couple minutes ago about Adam with the handstand, right? I talked to him nice and calmly, but I could have started yelling at him. Dude, Adam, how the fuck could you possibly fucking be so dumb and irresponsible to do a handstand while drunk. You could have fucking broken your wrist and like I could have just gone off on him, right? Because I've invested all this time helping Adam work out and get into shape and be on the Busa path, and I could get mad. Like, how the fuck, Adam, could you be so dumb to risk doing a fucking handstand while drunk? But I didn't, because nothing happened, right? If he had broken his wrist, no, you're
I'm
fine.
Sorry.
But if he had broken his wrist, right?
I was irresponsible. I was wrong.
If he had broken his wrist, I would have been a little bit upset. If he had broken his wrist, I'm not gonna show him my upsetness, but internally I would have been a little bit upset and a little bit disappointed. Like, God damn it, man! After all this shit that you've done, now you're gonna fuck it up by this, right? Now, if it were a complete accident, sure, but like if he tells me, yeah, I was drunk and I did a handstand, right? All right, you were the idiot in the situation there, Like, it's not like you just tripped and fell out of the blue, right? Like you were drunk and you did a handstand. That's your fault at that point. But the point is that you have to measure your words carefully. Now, in the situation with Prakash, okay, you just have to straight up tell this person, like, no. Let's say this guy comes up and is like, hey, let me use that equipment. You just turn to him, you look him dead in the eye, and you go, no, I'm here, I'm using this equipment. That's it. And then you continue to use the equipment and you ignore him. If the man continues to press, you go, listen, if you do not stop pressing me for this equipment, I will go to the gym manager and I will have him get you the fuck out of here. Alternatively, we can get into a physical altercation if you would like. And then you stand there looking as fucking physically threatening as possible. And if the guy is smaller than you, he'll understand, okay, I don't want either of those things to happen. And then he'll move away, right? But you don't need to necessarily threaten him and get all aggressive. What I mean is, like, he comes like, oh, let me use this equipment, or I'm going to use this equipment now. And you go, no, fuck you fuck face, right? Like, you don't want to fucking just throw out that shit, because all that's going to do is make him more angry and make him more likely to want to use the equipment and fuck with you, right?
So, two things. Like, one thing about her mother, your friend's mother, bringing up stuff. It's like my mom does it, my sister does it, and is to bring up old stuff and sort of like the minute you see use, especially, oh my God, I don't want to, you guys are Americans, and I don't want to say anything and sexist, but sort of like when you try to use logic and when they're using emotion and you use logic, it just backfires on you, because like if your objective is to pacify them, you should just like ride the wave, if that makes if that's a, like, just okay, and just like try to like fire, you try to cut off the oxygen. You don't give them more ammunition. You just try to blanket it with like a wet towel, and then after they calm down, you go tell them, okay, I'm sorry, or like whether like you explain it after they calm down, you explain it, and then you say, I don't like it when you dredge up shit. I don't like that. I don't like it like when it really hurts me. And when you do that, I did that with my mom, and she doesn't do that anymore. And she still does it occasionally, but not as much as she used to. Before, she used to like, oh, you did this back in 6th grade. I should have corrected you then, and you're still the same way. But now she doesn't do that anymore. So
we've been talking about how to deal with people who are not being kind and wholesome. So let's now talk about the things to keep in mind and the steps to take to improve yourself and become someone like when you're walking around and interacting with people in your everyday life. What are things you want to keep in mind in order to make sure that you yourself are helpful and kind and understanding?
Okay, I got this actually. So before I make a couple points directly answering your question, Adam, I would like to say anybody listening to this podcast at all would benefit heavily from watching a small YouTube clip. All you have to look up is One Piece Shanks bar scene. You need absolutely no context. If you watch the scene in and of itself, you'll understand why I'm telling you to watch it. But moving on from that, okay, one of the first things that you need to do is give people the time of day. Meaning someone approaches you, right? And regardless of how they look, regardless of how tall they are, short they are, fat they are, skinny they are, whatever attribute, right? You just give them the time of day. Now, if they cross some sort of boundary with you, right? If you set some sort of boundary and they cross it, right? Like, hey, if you wouldn't mind, don't come any closer to me, right? Like, let's say you're walking alone at night, you're a little bit scared, and it's some haggard looking motherfucker, right? You just tell them like, all right, like, is there something you want, right? And then like they kind of get a little bit closer to you, and you're like, hey, I'm a little bit like sorry, like I don't mean to imply that there's something wrong with you, but I'm a little bit scared because I'm here all alone. Could you not step any closer to me? The moment they step closer to you, you fucking take off. You beat the shit out of them. I don't care at that point, right? Like when people cross a boundary that you have physically set in some way, that's at that point that's their problem. They decided to take the action to cross the boundary. But you want to give people the time of day because there are a lot of people that they might come up to you for something genuinely important or something super menial, like asking you the time of day. And then because you decide not to even give them the time of day or to even look at them, they're depressed the rest of the day, right? I've seen this in a lot of guys. They go up to a girl to ask them something or to just give them a compliment even. And before they even get a word out of their mouth, the girl just turns to them and goes, I have a boyfriend. And then just turns away and walks away, right? And it's like, okay, I get it and I understand, right? And women have dangers to deal with by being in public spaces and they should be wary of men and all this kind of stuff. But there's a level of extremity to it right now in the US where it's very difficult even talk to, yes?
We're still talking about how to
Hang on.
counter people who are being not good.
No, but I'm telling because I'm telling you to give people the time of day, and I'm explaining the reasoning behind it, which is that if you don't give people the time of day, right, that negatively impacts that person, right? So just give them the time of day. You're gonna waste 2-3 seconds, maybe a minute or two. Maybe they lost their kid in the crowd. They need help finding him. Whatever the fuck it is, just help them out. It's your good deed for the day. All right, don't be such a cunt. All right. Now, another thing is that you want to keep in mind that everything is temporary and that sometimes it's not an issue with you specifically, right? Like what I'm saying is do not internalize. If someone comes at you aggressively or something like that, or someone comes up to you and says something offhanded about you, just relax and realize maybe they're having a bad day. Give this is the key piece. Give people the benefit of the doubt. So instead of saying like, oh, they're fucked up or like, they're a piece of shit human, give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's a reason they're being like this, right? At this particular moment. So just give people the benefit of the doubt and it'll give you a much more positive view on the world around you and people in general, right? Instead of labeling someone as an asshole right off the bat because you had one negative interaction with them, right? If you give them the benefit of the doubt, the next time you see them, you're like, oh, hey, like let's say I see Prakash. Let's say Prakash sees that guy in the gym again, right? Now, yeah, that guy's a dickhole from what I've heard, right? But maybe he was just having a terrible fucking day and he was super fucking angry or whatever the fuck, right? We don't know. Let's say Prakash next time goes, hey, dude, how you been, man? I haven't seen you in a while, right? Let's say he has that kind of approach, even though internally he wants to punch the guy in the face. Externally, he goes like, oh, hey, man, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while, right? Maybe that guy's actually super nice. Maybe that guy is a potential Busa. We have no fucking idea, right? So maybe you talk to him and he ends up being someone kind and understanding. Maybe he becomes your best friend. Who the fuck knows, right? But the only way to find out is if you give people the benefit of the doubt, you give them a chance. Now, if they fuck up that chance, that's a different story, right? Again, if you make this is something I want to stress to anybody listening. If you form a boundary and somebody crosses that boundary, you have no obligation to give them the time of day from that point forward, right? If and this happens sometimes to me with fans, like someone on Twitter is like messaging me belligerently, and I'm like, hey, like, look, you're messaging me like 50 times a day, all right? I can't keep up with this, right? And then I tell them, look, don't message me like 30 times in a row or I'm not going to respond, right? And I set that boundary. I'm like, look, if you message me once or twice here, there, I'll talk to you. I don't mind getting into a conversation with you. But if I come back to my phone and I have 30 messages from you, I'm not going to respond to you. You set that boundary. Once they cross that boundary, let's say the next time I come to my phone, I have 50 messages from this person. There's no need to give them the time of day. Like, you have set a boundary. They have disrespected you as a human being. That's a very, very important thing that people do not realize. And that's why people let themselves get walked over, because they don't see it as a big deal. because originally it's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. He sent me 31 messages. I said 30 was the cutoff. It's okay. I'll let him slide, right? But then 31 becomes 32. 32 becomes 50. 50 becomes 100. And now you're fucked, right? Now you've just let yourself be walked over because you're not giving yourself enough respect. So that's where I'll leave that, right? Give people the benefit of the doubt.
On that note, the benefit of the doubt thing, it was like a couple of years ago, and this girl I was into, she was into me, I was into her. She didn't message me for like a month. I was like, and then I met her. Like I texted her, and I hadn't gotten a response in like a month. I was so angry. I was like, oh, what would be such a tease, blah blah yada yada yada. And I was like, I was thinking all of this stuff, and if I ever see her, I'm gonna like confront her, and I'm gonna like say all these dramatic things, and I'm gonna walk away. And I was like, you know how you just like, yeah, you just conjure scenarios in your head, and you get all worked up, and then you find out what happened. And I found out like her dad died, and then 2 weeks later her mom died,
Holy
like
shit.
consecutively. I was, oh my god, I just melted. I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know what to say. I was, and like what, like we hadn't even gone out on a date yet, and like I just found out how like menial, like how like nothing my like I just like God, this was wow.
Yeah, like you were
And you just like it
insignificant. Like
puts it in
responding to you
perspective.
was so
Yeah.
insignificant. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's like it puts it in perspective, man. For your whole life just fell apart. And secondly, it wasn't the first time. The guy in the gym, like he does it repeatedly, and he's done it to my like a few other people as well. So this guy is a dick on a daily basis to multiple people, and no one, because Japan is so like if this was like before, like if I was in senior high, I would have like I would have like, because I was just fresh off of junior high, and I was super prickly about, I had a chip on my shoulder. I had to like stand up for myself every 2 seconds, and I was just like so jumpy. But after being in Japan for 4 years, I'm so I'm trying to like
You're like mellow.
be,
Yeah, I get you.
yeah, it's mellow. And this guy just comes out of nowhere, and he's being super confrontational and unnecessarily rude, and that just caught me off, unawares.
Of
And
course, and
thirdly,
people in Japan don't really stand up to people, so
yeah,
you
they
kind of
just they
absorb
just
that a little
they
bit.
just yeah they just avoid confrontation at all costs. Like, oh, it's brutal. Dating here is the girls. It's like it is what like at least in America you get a straight no. You just, oh, I have a boyfriend, or like the rejection's blunt. But this here it's worse. Here it's like slow poison. It's like radiation poisoning. It's like
Yeah, I get you.
yeah, yeah. And thirdly, uh, yeah, and about how to be kind and honest with people, and how to be good at conversations. When I'm listening to someone, I notice this about myself. Instead of actually listening to someone, I'm already formulating my own answers in my head, and sort of like getting ready to fire them out. Instead
Yeah,
of me
you're
actually,
listening. You're listening to respond instead of listening to understand.
yes, exactly. Like I'm just like I'm not imbibing what they're telling. I'm just like I'm not actually taking in what they're saying, and like sort of like digesting it for a little bit, and then giving them a good response. Instead, I'm just bam. I'm just spitting out whatever comes in my brain. Like I'm just like already trying to put together a bunch of words and just smash it in their face, instead of really taking the time of day to listen to them and give them like take interest in their lives. Thing.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's
exactly.
that's that's something we all need to do.
Okay, that's pretty good. So, Adam, do you have any concluding statement? Because I'd like to finish this.
Yeah, I was about to wrap things up actually. I think Prakash definitely hit the nail on the head, which is you don't want to have a conversation with someone with the intention to respond. You want to have a conversation with someone with the intention of understanding them and why they're trying to tell you something.
I'd like to say one last thing before we part ways, which is it's a quote. Everybody has their own circumstances, and it's Zoro from One Piece. It's very important, as Prakash was saying, to put things into perspective. You know, it's important to always think of that quote when you're interacting with someone. Like, let's say you've been talking to a girl for like 3 weeks, and then suddenly she stops responding to you. First of all, she could just be dead, right? Maybe then you have evidence that she's not dead. Okay, maybe her parents died, like what happened in Prakash's example. Maybe she had a boyfriend and she was going to cheat on him, but then she felt guilty, so she cut you off because she didn't want to accidentally go through with it. Whatever the hell the case may be, right? You can't understand somebody else's circumstances unless you ask or you be direct about it. So in the case of a girl not responding to you, maybe you go, hey, I was really connecting well with you. I really enjoyed talking to you. I don't know if something happened to you. Are you okay? Right? That's it. Because in the case where she actually had some sort of interest in you, she will most likely respond to that. Oh, yeah, I'm really sorry. Truth is, I'm actually married, and, my husband and I were talking about an open relationship, and then, we decided against it. So I didn't really want to, keep leading you on. Right? And you're like, oh, okay, no problem. No worries. And then you just move along. Right? Most people are just too aggressive about it. Like, what the fuck, bitch? You ghosted me? I can't fucking believe you. People just go off, right? And it's like they don't give the other person credit, that they have their own circumstances going on. I think that's very important to realize.
Well, thank you all for listening. And more importantly, thank you, Prakash, for being here.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about the door closing thing. I forgot. I thought we were on the phone, and I just took a piss, and then I realized I was like, oh my god, we had a podcast. So sorry about it. Yeah. I was like,
Well,
yeah,
thank you for being
it's
here, Prakash.
great to cyber meet you, Adam.
Yeah, and I
And
look forward to meeting you
thank
in
you
real
for
life.
editing the podcast.
Without further ado, fuck Craig.
Yeah, fuck you, Craig.